Hey, so I did do a quick video here about my experience at Jaguar of San Antonio off I10 and Hausman or UTSA Boulevard. Everything I'm going to express here are facts of what they did, how they fucked up, and what you can do to avoid this problem for yourself. So what occurred to me is that I was on my way somewhere important and my starter stopped on my car at a gas station. So I had to have my car towed. It was after hours and my vehicle got taken to my house, and then I took it on a Monday morning to the dealer, had it dropped off. They took it in and I told them what was wrong because I already knew, and I asked them to replace it. I go to pick it up a week later because they had to order the parts. What happened was then is that when they went to go bring me my car, they couldn't move my car. So then they, after making me wait for a few hours, they tell me that my emergency brake actuator had failed, which I found hard to believe because that doesn't happen very often. So I said, well, go ahead and remove them, release the brake, remove them, put them in the trunk. I'll drive the car without an e-brake, and then I'll do it myself. So then they come back after another hour and a half and they tell me that, oh, now my caliper is seized up. So then I'm like, oh, so the caliper is seized up now too, on top of that. And I brought my car in for a starter, and now I'm having to replace that, which is like another $1,500. So I tell them, just replace it so I can get my car out of here because I don't want them messing with it any more than I have to. Well, then they go to order it, and they tell me that the one that shows up, and again, this is by week 2 at this point, that it's the wrong color, and that my calipers are aftermarket because they're red, and my car doesn't come with red ones. So I tell them, well, bullshit, I know that they're OEM, but to my surprise later on, I figured out that they were correct. They were painted by the previous owner in California before I got my car, but that didn't change the fact that the calipers were OEM. They had the Jaguar stamp, the TWA or whatever, TWR, whatever the brand is that's on there. Had nothing to do with the problem. They were just trying to distract me from the fact is that they replaced a caliper that didn't need to be replaced. So I tell them, replace it. I'm coming to get my car. I come to get my car. I ask on the paperwork that they remove the. Again, I asked that they remove the emergency brake actuator. And here is the paperwork for those who need to see it. Pretty much it's all there. Here they said this caliper was blah, blah, blah failure, which I marked down as bullshit. Not that it makes a difference to me marking it. And then here it is where I asked them to remove it and they didn't do it. Then they tried to tell me that all these other things that needed to be done, blah, blah, blah. They sent me video clips of my differential with fluid on the bottom, which it's not leaking. That was just water condensation, but they were trying to sell me a new differential, I'm sure. So after going through all that, I go to pick up my car again. They washed my car through the car wash. So they were to drive my car through the car wash and then bring it back around. And then they tell me, oh, we left them in. We left the actuators in. Well, yeah, they did that because I raised hell with them when I was there. And so they were doing it to get back at me, pretty much, is what I suspect. Again, allegedly. So I know, because I have the entire 6,000 page PDF manual for repairing this car, is that it will try to engage the parking brake if it detects a malfunction when you stop the car, but not while driving it. So when I left, it tried to engage, and they were probably thinking, oh, it'll be funny to watch this guy's car lock up right after he leaves the dealership. Well, I know that trick. So I drove the car all the way home, got it home, pulled the actuator, tested it on a tester, on my bench tested it with a 12-volt car battery, and it worked just fine. The brake, the old caliper was just fine. I go through my entire car, which I have back here at my house, mind you, and I find out that during the taking it off the tow truck guy who, I don't even want to get started on that guy didn't know what to do and how to get this car off the tow truck. And Jaguar refused to help get tell the guy or do any sort of service as far as helping to get the vehicle off the tow truck. Down in here, there is a panel. And in this panel is a fuse box. And in this fuse box, fuse number 1, a 30 amp fuse on the far right there on the top. That one right there was blown. So that fuse blew because they took my car off the tow truck that which I called from Jaguar, and they later claimed that it was my tow truck and not theirs, and blah 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 and all this bullshit. And so it was my fault apparently, even though I went to their website and used their service to call the tow truck. They did not engage something correctly. I suspect they didn't put my car in maintenance mode. So if you have a computer like I do, you can put the car into maintenance mode so you can service the rear brakes without the e-brake engaging and blowing out the cylinders. I have one of these, and so I know what I'm talking about. I suspect they did not engage this. I think they tried to push my car and figured they could make it, and then the battery died because the car sat for a week in the parking lot unlocked. I know this because I saw on my app that it was unlocked. So you use this to engage that emergency brake, the service mode for the emergency brake. And that allows you to move the car, put it in neutral, or use the mechanical way of putting it in neutral, which whenever you need to do that, you have to put the screw-in part in here. You pop this out, it screws in so they can tow the car without damaging it. Then you have to come into here, pop this up, and in this little secret hatch here, depending on the model you have, it may be labeled, it may not be, is this thing that you turn, and then you pull this up, and that disengages the transmission, essentially putting it in neutral. So once you do that, that allows the car to be moved. If the battery dies in the car, it automatically engages the e-brake. So I suspect was what happened is they were pushing it, and the e-brake tried to engage and clamp down while the car was moving, and that's what popped the fuse. And again, that's just a guess. And so they put the car on rollers, they moved it in, didn't bother to tell me that happened. So after a week of waiting for the starter to be done, instead of getting all the parts ordered at once and being done, they waited till I was stuck there coming to pick it up to tell me that it had a brake problem and blah, 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 blah. So after I got it home and I found out that fuse was bad, I replaced it. And now my car works just fine. And I've been driving it just fine since then. Here is the off-color brake caliper, and again, they were right. The previous owner did repaint it, because when I pulled off the actuator, you could tell they had some overspray from the paint. But here's the off color. But the thing is that the original one, which they told me was aftermarket, I don't know what point they were trying to make that it was aftermarket and that somehow broke everything, is BS, because here's the original, which I blew out the cylinder because I was messing with it, and so that's why it looks the way it is, because I was just trying to see what would happen. But here is the original part, and obviously this is the original Jaguar with the part and the serial number on my 2017 Jaguar F-Type Premium. And they were basically just trying to find ways of making excuses as to why they failed to diagnose my car. So when I got home and I fixed it and I realized it was a 30 amp fuse, I was pretty livid. I contacted Jaguar itself, and they basically said that the dealer told them that I towed the car in on my own, and that's why it's not their responsibility. I don't know how that follows, considering that I went to the Jaguar dealership app on their dealership website, requested the tow service, and they sent the guy out. And when I asked them why they didn't meet the guy outside to help him navigate on how to get this car off, they said, well, we don't do that. We don't assist in that. We just wait till they drop the car off. So what they basically said is that they allow tow truck companies to tow vehicles, drop them off without telling them how to do it, and let them fuck the car up, and then basically say, well, now we got to replace some brakes and crap. And that's what they basically said. Now, granted, it isn't the manual on how you're supposed to do this, and I told the tow truck guy how to do it, and I helped him do it when he towed it to my house. And when we got it to the dealership, I did help him get it off his truck at the dealership. I had no problems until after I dropped it off, but the dealership refused to admit guilt, and that's not unusual. They never admit guilt because they don't want to have to pay for your car. So the lesson learned here is don't ever go to the dealership for any sort of a service once your warranty is up on your car. It doesn't matter whether you're Toyota, Lexus, Acura, Honda, any of those dealerships. After your warranty is out, never go to a dealership, because the warranty pays them exactly what the manufacturer knows that they should pay you for the service. They don't pay a penny more, so they don't make any extra money. But when your car is out of warranty, now they're charging you directly for the service, and they can make up whatever they want, and no one's going to check up on them, and they hold your car basically hostage at that point. And they have a quota to meet, so that's why they rack things up. They rack up the bill. But since I've worked on cars before in the past, I knew it was bullshit. Now, unfortunately, because of the situation I was in, I took it to the dealer because it was my only real choice to get it done quickly. Had I known that it was going to take 2 weeks just to get all this done and $3,000, I never would have done it. So again, I'm just letting you know, this is what happened at Jaguar of San Antonio, Jaguar and Land Rover of San Antonio at I10 and 1604 area of San Antonio. And they basically dropped the ball, man. It was a 30 amp fuse. It was a 25-cent fuse. They claimed that they did a diagnostics on my car and that it showed an open circuit. Well, obviously your techs aren't ASE certified, because if they were, they would have taken and Jaguar certified, because if they were Jaguar certified, they would have known that what that open circuit means is that either a wire was cut or the fuse popped. They didn't check any of those things. They told me they checked everything and that it was a blown actuator. And when I asked them if they tested it, they said they did. Obviously, they lied about that, because if they had, they would have realized that it works. So now I have the original actuator back inside the car. I actually have like all these parts I had bought because I thought I was going to have to replace all this stuff in my car, and it turned out I didn't need to. I even checked like all this other stuff and got it all imported. I have so many parts for this car because I do all the work myself. So that's that. Oh, and this is the starter shield, by the way. They forgot to put that back on my car. I had it in the trunk, and I told them it was in the trunk because I was going to take it off myself, but when I realized I didn't have the time or the lift to do it, and I told them it was the trunk, and they forgot, they didn't even put that back on. So that's another neglect right there. But if you look at all the parts that I have, here's the new actuator that I never bothered to put in. You know why? Because the original one works. And you can actually see it right there. There's the wiring harness that plugs it in right there, and going into the back of it, and that's the original. Here's the new one, because I figured I'd ordered it thinking, oh, well, maybe it did go bad. But it didn't. So I'm keeping this just in case with the wiring harness and everything. And I don't even need these parts. If I have the car long enough where I do need them, okay, but pretty much they lied their ass off is what they did. They put I can tell by the video that they gave me and by the person that was doing it and by the sound of their voice that it was like a kid. It was basically a person who was probably not even 20 years old. And they had a ASE tech who was supervising what they did. And they did whatever they did. And instead of just copying to it, they lied. And they pretty much did that. So that's this video. That's basically telling you, like, don't go to the dealership. Unless you're going under warranty work and you have them dead to rights on the warranty work, don't go, because they will lie if it's anything that they can make money off of. They tried to tell me that I needed all these things done to my car that didn't need to be done. I've done it all myself. I even the guy that used to do the work on my car, the previous agent, Juan, he was okay. He did a fine job. Nothing was wrong with him. Apparently they had somebody covering for him because he was on vacation. And I guess that person covering for him was just full of shit. So anyway, that's it. I know I talk really fast. I know I repeat myself a lot. I'm sure a lot of people are going to make comments about what I should or shouldn't do. I'm just letting you know what happened to me. Hopefully this helps you. And if you do live in San Antonio, do not go to the Jaguar of San Antonio off of I10 and Hausman Road. And I bought this car originally from Jaguar Bernie. They told me that everything was OEM and fine. Obviously, they didn't notice the painted caliper brakes. I thought that was OEM. I didn't know much about this car when I got it. I just noticed it needed some work, and it would have been fine. And it is fine now. It is fine. It is at 70,000 miles, and I've done some other stuff to it. You can see my other videos. If this helps a single person not ever go to the dealership and save them some money, I hope that's my job done. I hope that helps somebody. Because that's the only point of these videos, is to help people not get screwed over. All right, well, that's it. Y'all have a good rest of the evening. Night. Merry Christmas.